Now, more of Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the only show directly addressing the problems and solutions for Illinois. Now, from AM 560, here's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Lauren Cohn. She's the host of In the Loop on WYCC Thursday evenings. You want to check that out. And Lauren, a lot of people are hurting in Illinois because of the economic policy that has constricted job opportunities, made it more difficult to do business here, expand a business if you have an existing one, as well as if you provide social services, for example, or you've provided a good or service to the state and haven't been paid in months and months and months by the state. So a lot of people suffering, but here's some good news. Here's a bit of a silver lining. The politicians are not. The politicians, state legislators, the 177 noblemen and magistrates that lord over us are not suffering because despite the budget impasse and all that I've just described, state legislators are still getting paid. They're still accruing their salary. Their pension benefits. They're still being covered by all of us with respect to their health insurance.
And that's a nice salary, right?
Well, for a part-time job, $82,000 in the Senate and about $70,000 in the House. It's not bad for a part-time job.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Before you talk about the pension you get after 8 years, before you talk about health insurance and the like. So, yeah, it's not bad, which is why most of them don't want to leave, because it turns out that despite what you think, that these are all extremely talented people that could do a lot of different things, but they've just chosen public service. It actually turns out that most of them are nitwits who this is the best job they will ever have. Certainly the compensation level, and nobody in the free world would pay them $70,000 or $82,000 a year to do anything.
Dan?
Yeah, you want to get in line for this, right? Yeah, absolutely.
I'm thinking about it now that you just put it that way.
Yeah, I understand. It's pretty attractive. You just have to endure the nitwittery down in Springfield for 6 months of the year, which is, you couldn't pay me enough. But some people have a higher tolerance than I do, and are exceptions to the rule. There are exceptions to the rule down there. There's a handful of them. One of them is State Representative Keith Wheeler from the Western Burbs, and he joins us now. Representative Wheeler, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So what about that, the optics of this, even Republicans in the super minority, the optics of legislators continuing to get paid, and if people only knew then what they got paid and the associated benefits, while social service providers aren't, while vendors to the state aren't, while we have this budget impasse, while people are having a difficult time finding work in the state of Illinois, is it sensible for legislators, even maybe super minority Republicans, to lead by example and take a bullet or two in terms of their salary and benefits?
Well, Dan, my neighbors, they work hard, and their reward is the paycheck that they receive that helps support their families. And, we know logic often in short supply in Springfield, and the speaker has kind of twisted it so that legislators are getting paid to really not work on the budget impasse issues. Realistically, if none of us were getting paid and our staffs weren't getting paid, you'd see real pressure from those same lawmakers to put pressure on their leadership to get real actual discussions back on board for a state budget.
So maybe
rally the troops to do it.
Yeah, maybe Leader Durkin and Leader Radonio in the Senate should make that caucus position. We Republicans don't want to be paid. We're not going to be paid. We're going to put ourselves on the side of the skirmish line with all those people you just described, and let the craven, cynical Democrats feast on other people's money and see how that works out for them politically.
Well, we've seen the way this worked politically just last summer was when the automatic pay raises were going to go into effect. And, man, we got tons of phone calls in our office about why we're getting raises in the middle of a budget impasse. And it took several weeks of real pressure from those same Democrat legislators we talked about before, the rank and file. They actually said, hey, we're taking real heat in the office over this automatic pay raise, which, by the way, is part of legislation that's already been passed in the previous General Assembly. We would actually have to, and we did, file legislation that ultimately the Speaker took the language from after significant pressure and put it through, and it got almost unanimous support to turn off the pay raises. But that was just for the pay raise part of it. I can't imagine what it would take to actually get the Speaker to lift it off and let us all not get paid for a period of time.
But other than us raising the issue, Keith, aren't there your colleagues that are talking about this and what an outrage it is? Is it a conversation you're having?
Well, the conversation that we've been having, is actually all kind of leads to the part of this where we're all a part of the Speaker's current political plan to make sure that the governor's damaged for his 2018 reelection campaign and can't point to any reforms or legislative victories at all. And this whole stalling process that's going on, we know that there's lots of collateral damage. It hurts state government. It hurts the most vulnerable people who depend on state government and should depend on state government. It hurts our jobs climate, all of which have been struggling for far too long. So our focus has been trying to get some of these reforms underway, but you've seen it hasn't gone very far yet.
Just sticking on the state legislator deal for a minute, because kind of, this anger that's directed at ruling class politicians. And again, I'm talking about generally, particularly at the leadership level, there's rank and file legislators that share that viewpoint, like yourself. But I know there's some 36 state legislators who have said they're not going to accept a legislative pension. I mean, should state legislators vest for a pension? Should they have a pension? What other job in the world do you get a pension for 8 years of part-time service?
Well, the pension issue is something we should address at a whole level, because to me, even if we fix the legislative pension part of it, which we should, don't get me wrong, the big picture is we need to move from this ridiculous defined benefit program we have now, which is unaffordable. We can't sustain it. We should be moving to a defined contribution plan as soon as possible. I know that Mark Badnick, my colleague down in Plainfield, has filed legislation that would actually let us do pension buyouts like have been done in the private sector to try to help us get out of this pension disaster that's looming. But yeah, I am not a fan of what we've got put in place right now, and would be happy to discuss real legislation to change it as soon as we can.
All right. He is State Representative Keith Wheeler from Kane County. Representative Wheeler, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.